Okay, picture this. London, October. The bells aren't just ringing. They're absolutely roaring. It's this huge citywide celebration because King Henry VIII finally has his heir.
His legitimate son, Edward Tudor.
Right, his legitimate son, Henry's 52. He's been through the Ringer alliance is broken, the whole split with Rome, wife after wife.
Uh-huh. Catherine, Anne.
Exactly. So this baby boy isn't just an heir. He's like the guarantee. The thing that stops the nightmare of civil war from happening again. He's the Tudor dynasty secure.
Yeah. You can almost feel the whole kingdom just exhaling. Finally. But I mean, almost immediately that relief turns into this massive weight on one tiny infant.
That's a lot for a baby.
It's immense. Henry's whole focus, his entire world, is about securing the line. And the sources, they're pretty clear. Right from the start, there's this deep anxiety around him. Someone actually wrote he was cradled in hope and swaddled in peril.
Wow, swaddled in peril. That really captures it. And that contradiction, that's exactly what we're getting into today. Our mission here is to kind of peel back the layers of that official story, the Tudor propaganda about the perfect golden prince.
Right.
And see, well, the brutal reality underneath. Edward VI's life was short. It was incredibly painful. And honestly, it seems like he was trapped by politics, by his own fragile body, and ultimately tortured by the very cures meant to save him.
It's a pretty horrifying story when you dig into it.
Okay, let's unpack this. So from day one, his nursery at Hampton Court, it wasn't just fancy. It was like a fortress built out of fear.
Oh, absolutely. The precautions described are, well, they're obsessive. You read about nurses scrubbing their hands raw with rosemary and vinegar. Assistants had to taste his milk first, just in case of poison.
Taste his milk.
Seriously, every single time. And the swaddling clothes changed hourly, not just for hygiene, but they were terrified of any dampness causing a chill leading to illness.
Wow.
They even tried to, purify the air, filtering it through cloth soaked in rose water, trying to fight off bad vapors or miasmas. The level of control was just intense.
A gilded cage, literally. But despite all that, all the silk and rose water, the reality of the baby himself, that couldn't be totally hidden, right? Whispers started early on.
They did. Among the midwives, the ladies in waiting, they noticed his fragility.
What exactly did they see?
He was small for a royal baby, apparently. Some private notes describe his limbs as being slender as reeds, and his skin was really pale, almost translucent. You could supposedly see the blue veins underneath, like faint, delicate rivers. They called it a delicate constitution.
Delicate constitution?
Yeah.
I mean, for Henry VIII, obsessed with strength and masculinity, that must have been hard to hear. How did he deal with it? The difference between the official story and what people were seeing.
Denial. Pure and simple denial. That was Henry's go-to. He'd stride in, maybe make some booming comment like, all babes are frail at first. He will grow strong, he must.
Yeah, classic Henry.
But apparently, his visits were pretty short. The sources suggest he was actually uncomfortable in the nursery. Too quiet, maybe. Too controlled. And that heavy smell of medicinal herbs everywhere. It was thick enough to choke. It was easier for him just to trust the physicians.
The physicians, men with big reputations,
yeah.
Right? But their remedies, let's just say they weren't exactly scientific.
Not by our standards, no. They were working off the theory of the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Health was all about keeping those in balance.
Right, the humors.
So if Edward seemed weak, their first thought wasn't, better food or rest. It was these elaborate, expensive tonics. We're talking crushed pearls, flakes of actual gold leaf.
Wait, gold? They fed him gold?
Yes. The idea, as bizarre as it sounds to us, was that the gold would somehow strengthen the royal humors, infuse him with its own nobility or something. So right from the start, this tiny baby is getting basically useless, maybe even harmful powders mixed into his food.
All just to try and make him fit the image Henry needed.
Exactly. To turn this delicate child into the robust heir alarm, the kingdom and the king demanded.
So as he gets a bit older, leaves infancy. This gilded cage doesn't exactly open up, does it? The treatments just keep coming.
They become relentless. It sounds like almost any little sniffle, any normal childhood thing brought the doctors running. And these daily treatments, they really were a kind of torture.
What were they doing day to day?
Well, they were constantly trying to rebalance those humors. You've got Dr. Butts. He's a big-name physician then.
Yeah, I heard of him.
He's prescribing things like ground-up stag's antler mixed in white wine. The idea was it would invigorate the blood. But that was just one theory. Other doctors had different, often conflicting ideas.
It sounds chaotic. Was there anyone pushing back? Like, His head nurse, Lady Bryan, she must have seen plenty of babies.
She did, and she seems to have been quite practical. There are hints she argued for less physic and more sunlight. She'd seen other royal kids thrive with a bit more freedom, fresh air, maybe some rough and tumble play.
Makes sense.
But her common sense usually got shouted down. The physicians had the king's ear, and they were driven by fear of failing Henry, and also, incredibly, by astrology.
Astrology, seriously. In the Tudor court, guiding medical decisions.
Oh, absolutely. They were tracking planetary alignments constantly. There's a record of one doctor, Wendier, saying something like, "The planets are unfavorable this month, Mars is dominant, it inflames the lungs, we must purge the excess heat."
Wow. So medical decisions based on Mars.
When you mix that kind of fear with superstition, yeah, the patient, in this case a little boy, is the one who suffers.
And that suffering sounds pretty intense. These purges to get rid of excess heat or corrupted bile.
Uh-huh.
What did that actually involve?
Well, one main method was forcing him to vomit or have severe diarrhea. They gave him these strong drafts of things like rhubarb, but also hellebore.
Hellebore. Isn't that poisonous?
It absolutely can be. It's a powerful purgative. The records say these doses left Edward just limp and whimpering, completely exhausted.
Oh, that's awful for a child.
Horrendous. And then there was the bloodletting, removing bad blood. That meant leeches, applied right onto his pale skin, sucking out blood they believed was corrupted.
Ah, leeches.
Yeah. Apparently, his half-sister Mary, on her rare visits, noticed how hot he felt, his fever. She'd whisper, "He burns." But saying anything more direct, questioning the doctors, that was like questioning the king himself. You just didn't do it.
So everyone just had to pretend it was working, maintain the charade.
Yeah.
Which leads to this really stark contrast with his education, right?
Mhm.
Because intellectually, he was sharp.
Incredibly sharp. His mind was like a sponge. By age 6 or 7, he's deep into Latin, Greek, theology. His tutors were amazed. His translations were fast, accurate. He soaked it all up.
A little prodigy.
Definitely. But while his mind was racing ahead, his body was kept confined. Too delicate for sports, for running around, and the treatments just continued every single day.
Even when he seemed mentally fine.
Oh, yeah. The physicians had their midday regimen, maybe some leeches first. Then they'd slap these foul-smelling plasters, called picuses, onto his chest.
Picuses, what were they?
Medicated bandages, basically. Often with strong, irritating stuff in them, meant to draw the sickness out through the skin. And little Edward, the future king, apparently just endured it. Sat there, jaw clenched, silent.
And meanwhile, Henry's boasting. Oblivious.
Completely, or choosing to be. He'd parade ambassadors through, point at Edward bent over his books, and boom, see how he thrives? A scholar, a statesman. It's this collective delusion, almost.
The whole kingdom needed him to be thriving, so they just pretended he was.
Exactly, until they couldn't pretend anymore.
Yeah, that brings us to the turning point. The fever that wouldn't go away. One minute he's maybe reciting his lessons sharp as ever, the next he's just burning up.
Yeah.
And then the cough started.
And it wasn't just a normal cough. The descriptions call it wet and ragged. It got worse, more violent, until one day the handkerchief comes away, and it's speckled with red.
Oh, no.
That was it. That confirmed everyone's deepest fear, consumption, tuberculosis.
And they had echoes, right, of his uncle, Prince Arthur.
Instantly, Arthur, Henry's older brother, died young, probably from TB. The memory was fresh, terrifying. So the physicians, who were already panicked, now went into overdrive.
More conflicting diagnoses.
Absolutely. Malignant vapors, blaming Mars again. But the one thing they agreed on was they had to do more. The treatments had to get even more aggressive, more brutal.
How could they even get more brutal?
They turned to things designed to literally burn the illness out. Blistering plasters, these were caustic chemicals put on the skin to deliberately create burns and blisters. The hope was the pestilence would leak out.
That sounds agonizing.
It was. But even worse, arguably, were the heavy metals they started giving him internally.
You mean mercury?
Yes. They started dosing him with mercury. Sometimes they even mixed it with crushed emeralds.
Emeralds. Why?
The thinking, incredibly, was that the hardness and purity of the gem would somehow help the mercury target the deepest corruption. The records are clear. These drafts left him writhing, clutching his stomach like it was full of knives.
And the physical toll.
Yeah.
It must become impossible to hide by then.
Completely. In his final months, the illness and, let's be honest, the poisoning showed up horrifically on his body. These angry, weeping sores, ulcers, started appearing all over his arms and chest, like a grotesque garden, one description says. And the smell.
Oh, God.
The stench of decay apparently filled his rooms. When Henry finally grasped how bad it was, saw the visible decay, his fear just turned back into rage. Denial again. He doubled the guards, ordered silence. Anyone talking about how sick the prince really was faced severe punishment.
But the boy was clearly dying. The doctors must have known they were failing. What was left?
One last, desperate, and ultimately lethal act. This is the real tragedy. The physicians, terrified Henry, would blame them, maybe even accuse them of treason. They proposed a final, super-concentrated dose.
Of the mercury and pearls.
Yes, a tonic of crushed pearls and mercury strong enough to purge even the most stubborn corruption, was how they put it. Henry, cornered, desperate, probably unable to face the truth. He just nodded. Do it.
He basically signed his son's death warrant.
It feels that way looking back. It was a lethal dose, masked as a final cure. Edward was barely conscious, but they forced it down. The description says the jolt of it burned like fire down his throat. He started convulsing violently.
Oh.
And it's in that moment, seeing them still applying leeches for deep bleeding, forcing down more poison like white hellebore, that Lady Bryan supposedly just whispered it to him, the awful truth. They are killing you.
He finally died. When?
The convulsions ended around the third bell chime after midnight. England's golden prince, the hope of the dynasty, was gone. And instantly you can feel the shift. The court's focus snaps away from the dead boy, straight to the throne.
And chaos ensues. Lady Jane Grey's brief, doomed reign.
9 days. Then Mary takes over, Bloody Mary, and then eventually Elizabeth manages to navigate it all and survive. Politics took over immediately.
But the official story about Edward's death, that got written pretty quickly too, right?
Oh yeah. The propaganda machine kicked in fast. The official line became, pious young prince, tragically taken by God's will. Sweet, scholarly, just too good for this world. The agony, the treatments, all wiped clean from the record. For centuries, that was the story.
So how did we eventually find out the truth, if they covered it up so well?
It took careful work by later historians, piecing things together from less official sources, private notes, account books, things like the medical logs kept by Dr. Butts or the household accounts managed by people like Lady Bryan.
The details hidden in the paperwork.
Exactly. These weren't meant for public consumption. They often used jargon or coded language, but they recorded the actual treatments, the quantities of dangerous substances being administered, not the rosy picture of recovery.
And this is where medical historians like Dr. Hartwell made the connection.
Precisely. Dr. Hartwell, among others, painstakingly matched the timeline of Edward's worsening symptoms with the recorded doses of mercury found in those financial and medical ledgers.
And the conclusion?
It's stark. The mercury treatments alone were likely fatal. They didn't just fail to cure his probable tuberculosis, they actively poisoned him systematically over a long period. It weakened his body terribly, accelerated the disease, and ultimately caused his system to just collapse.
So the thing meant to save him actually killed him faster. The ultimate irony.
It's incredibly dark. All that effort, all that fear driving Henry, all the expensive, supposedly cutting-edge medicine. It didn't just fail to protect the heir. It basically ensured he died young and in agony.
Forensic reconstructions based on the descriptions. They paint a grim picture.
They suggest that by the end, because of the mercury poisoning on top of the TB, his body was ravaged. The descriptions of the sores, the internal decay, he was essentially, as one historian put it, reduced to a vessel of pus and pain, killed by the cure.
Wow. It's just such a shocking gap, isn't it, between the official image, the Golden Prince, and this hidden reality. A child basically rotting away, tortured by leeches, purges, and lethal doses of mercury.
It really is. And it makes you think, doesn't it? Edward's suffering was horrific, but maybe not entirely unique for the time, medically speaking. The difference is his agony was recorded in such grim detail because he was a king, because he mattered politically.
Right. We only know because he was important.
It's a chilling reminder of the human costs that can get buried under those big, grand, historical narratives. It really pushes you to question the official story, especially when it seems designed to smooth over something painful for political reasons.
Yeah. And it leaves us with a pretty provocative question, I think. Henry VIII was obsessed with Edward securing the Tudor line. But let's imagine just for a second that Edward had survived the treatments somehow and gone on to rule effectively. How would we remember him? As a great king who brought stability?
Or would he just be the ultimate tragic example of how the sheer weight of political necessity, the demands of the state, can utterly crush and destroy a child?
Something to definitely think about. We'll leave you with that thought.